everyone, this is Gale from PaulGaleNetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is April 1st, 2021, and these are the top stories of the day. To kick things off, we have a little bit of a delay for the upcoming Resident Evil movie that was announced today. It was previously set for a September 3rd, 2021 release, and now it's coming out November 24th. So roughly 2.5 months later. Not too big of a delay. This puts it technically closer to Halloween, just missing it by a month. But overall, shouldn't impact the movie's financials too much. If anything, by coming out a little bit later, that puts it technically that much farther removed from coronavirus, presumably, hopefully, fingers crossed, at its peak, with more people, having the vaccine by then. And like I said, hopefully not another flare-up or anything. So that just gives the greater potential for it having more success in theaters since it's farther removed from the peak and hopefully back to when society is closer to normal. And speaking of movies, I have a little bit of an update on what I thought of this upcoming piece, Godzilla vs. Kong. Okay, it's a kind of a smaller video game news day today. I do have something huge to talk about in a moment, but I thought I'd fit this right in between the delay talk and the big news that I have, and that is just a little update on Godzilla vs. Kong. I saw it yesterday in theaters, then I watched it again on HBO Max, and I loved it. I thought it was really cool. I don't want to get into spoiler talk about what happened, but because in case if you haven't seen it, I don't want to talk about winner, loser, and specific other elements in the film, but it was really nice. It wasn't too long. I could have gone for even more, actually. It was just a really enjoyable ride from start to finish. I thought the human characters, which I'm never looking forward to as much as the monster fights themselves, but I do always hope that the human component is good. The human characters were solid. There were a couple of different storylines going on at the same time, and both were fun to watch. It felt kind of like a King Kong movie, but definitely had a lot of Godzilla moments. And I think that was actually a pretty nice balance because of these last 4 movies in the MonsterVerse, you had a pure Godzilla film in 2014, and you had a sequel, Godzilla King of the Monsters. You had a Kong Skull Island film, and then this one being Godzilla vs. Kong, it feeling a little bit more story, narrative, more screen time driven of King Kong. It kind of is a little bit of more of a Kong movie than a Godzilla tale, but it's basically it's both of theirs at the end of the day. So Kong gets 1.5 movies and Godzilla gets 2.5 movies in this 4-movie MonsterVerse, if you want to think of it like that. I hope for more. I would love to see sequels to this, prequels to it, whether it's, these characters specifically, human or monster otherwise, or other characters from the established kaiju background, new, old folks like Gigan and Queris, new characters. I'm just stoked. I want more. This is a movie that meant a lot to me coming out. It's kind of crazy because, it was supposed to originally come out November 2020. Then it got delayed to March 2021. Or actually, no, I take that back. It was originally supposed to come out November 2019. Got delayed to March 2020. Then delayed to November 2020, then pushed back to May 2021 before eventually coming out this past March 2021. So talk about, a long road map. A couple of those delays were due to just making sure that the film was right, reshoots, bigger budget, tighter story, great special effects. All of that was nailed. Some of the delays were thanks to coronavirus. This last one, I don't really know why it got delayed from the 26th through the 31st, at least in the United States, but overall, well worth it. What a great movie. I'm really happy. I want to do a more thorough talk on a separate video. This is video game news talk, so I didn't want to take up too much time, but I'm just excited. I'm happy. I said that I would talk about my experience with it, and very solid film, really fun. If you want to talk about it in the comments, let's talk about it so nobody gets spoiled. But I will have another video coming up soon that's kind of more of a review and a breakdown of the scenes, what I liked most, etc. Okay, back to gaming talk. This is something that I'm really proud of, that I'm really excited of. In 2012, which is hard to believe that it's 9 years ago, my children's book got published, Lisek's Great Adventure. You can see here, this is created and written by Paul Gale, that's me. My friend illustrated it, Jonine. And I'm excited to announce today, I never thought this day would come, but Lisek's Great Adventure has been acquired by a certain publisher and developer that I'm a big fan of to turn into a video game adaptation. This is, I gotta say, a dream come true. It's a dream that I didn't know that I had necessarily, that my book would turn into a video game character. I can't speak specifics on who the publisher and developer are, but it's one of my favorites in the video game industry. That's about all I could say, but there will be a video game of Lisek's Great Adventure, and it's a multi-game potential should this one do well. So I have stories in my head that I would like to turn into books, which at this point it would be focused on to turning into games. So that's pretty exciting. So if you read my book, you kind of know what the story is about. The game will obviously be bigger, but the book takes place from Lisek's eyes as she gets taken in by a young boy and his family and stuff like that. So all I can say is, the book's going to take place, or the game's going to take place, I should say, based off of the book, but just being stretched out to be a game and not just a 20-something page, 1,000 plus word children's book. So that's really exciting, and I can't wait to share more with you in the proper time. But for now, all I can say is April Fools. Sorry, I had to do it. I felt bad. April Fools is just a joke. This is my actual children's book that I did write, for those of you that are watching that didn't know that I'm a published author. The first part of that was all real, I promise. This book came out in July of 2012. It's my actual children's book. It is out there. You can check it out on Amazon.com, on Barnes & Noble, Walmart, eBay, Google Play, App Store. It's out there digitally, physically, but there is no game coming out. So just kidding, April Fools. Okay, don't be too mad that I was tricking you. However, wouldn't that be cool? That would actually be kind of neat and wild if this ever became a game. Not like there's any plan for it, but hey, that would be cool. But that's just a joke. Okay, moving on to some more real game news. We have our Famitsu sales for the week. This is for week 13 of 2021, which takes place from March 22nd to 28th. Once again, thank you ResetEra.com and Chris1964 for supplying this data. You could find it almost anywhere on the internet, but as always, I like to give props to Chris and Reset Era because I just like the community. I like the breakdown. So here we go. Number 1 spot, Monster Hunter Rise. Physical alone, 1.3 million copies sold for Nintendo Switch. That's a 94% sell-through. That means just a little over 1,302,000 copies is what Capcom actually shipped for Japan. So you could definitely say that they could have shipped more, and the sell-through would have been probably just as high, and the game would have sold more physical copies. Now, my prediction was 2 million total, and guess what? Capcom did say it was around 2 million. We don't know if that's like 1,980,000 or 2,050,000, right? But I guess I was spot on with 2 million. 1.3 for physical, around 700,000 for digital. Fantastic debut. 2 million, by the way, is pretty much in line with Monster Hunter World that came out a few years ago in Japan. And as I told you previously, the game had a 4 million opening debut worldwide. So you're looking at half of it coming from Japan and the other half from United States, Europe, Australia, etc. So pretty good breakdown. Number 2, hanging in there. Really got legs this one. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury with 37,000, just down by 1%. Number 3, a new game. This debuted at number 3 and 9. The Nintendo Switch spot was the number 3, the quintessential quintuplets double integral title. This is from a popular Japanese manga. The PS4 game of the same name got the 9th place. The difference there was 20,374 on Nintendo Switch and 10,378, about half of that on PS4. And number 4 was Momotaro with a 0% change pretty much. 20,179 copies sold. Number 5, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, up 11%, hitting 13,207. Number 6, Ring Fit Adventure, 12,632 copies sold, down 15%, not bad. Number 7, the game that's now been on there for over a year, Animal Crossing New Horizons, another 11,145 copies sold, up 17% from the previous week. This game is doing the whole Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild thing, where the meme is that links keep climbing whenever you get an up percent change from the previous week. Wild. Number 8, Minecraft, Nintendo Switch version, 11,096 copies sold, up 19% from the previous week. I already went to number 9. Number 10, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, another 10,270 copies, only down 1% from the previous week. Overall top 10 was Nintendo Switch at 9, PlayStation 4 at 1, and that's a strong list, particularly that number 1 spot, that number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 spot. Very impressive. We have some games going up, we have a strong debut, we have a strong hold, and we have a respectable debut if you count 3 and 9 together, the quintessential quintuplets double integral from PS4 and Nintendo Switch for a manga. Smaller title, but still busting out 30,000 plus. Not bad. And finally, we have our hardware sales from Famitsu as well. At number 1, no surprise here, Nintendo Switch with 267,000 units. That's impressive. It's so much that Nintendo Switch is still beating 2020 for the first 3 months of the year. It really topped the previous week's 89,000, right? And it was only shy by 15,000 of last year's second week that Animal Crossing was on the market. That first week, Animal Crossing and Nintendo Switch just were way up here, and Nintendo Switch sold something in the neighborhood of 385,000 units, I should say, and then it dropped to 282 for the second week. So this is really pretty close to this 282 from last year. Overall, that puts it at 1,744,000 for Nintendo Switch in 2021 at this point versus 1,700,000 for Nintendo Switch at this point last year. That's up over 44,600 units, rather, and that's pretty strong. We'll see which year comes out on top. Also, Nintendo Switch this week officially passed 19 million. That means that Nintendo Switch has passed the original PlayStation in Japan, and that's a pretty impressive feat. Just how high can the system go? It's looking more and more likely that it's going to pass 3DS and get close to that DS level. PlayStation 5 with a very strong, highest since opening week of launch, 62,000 units sold. Sony definitely is shipping out to Japan. It definitely shows you that a lot of the sales struggle comes from lack of shipments going there, because here you have no significant release, nothing major happening, and it's selling a good 28,000 more than the previous week just because Sony's shipping more out there. And now you have PS5 on its way to 600,000, PS4 2,189 units, Xbox Series brand of consoles 1,279, and the Nintendo 3DS actually up from the previous week with 933. Pretty cool charts overall. It's going to be interesting to see how Nintendo Switch carries on in both hardware and software next week. Will Capcom be able to ship out enough copies of Monster Hunter Rise in physical quantities? Digital, anybody could get it, but physically, can they pump out enough for this upcoming week to have some really strong numbers again? And how will that, dip be week after week? How will its legs be? Will we see a rise, pun intended, once in a while? My bet is that, over the next 52 weeks, we will see some weeks where Monster Hunter Rise, is going up, but overall, it'll have a decline. Just how fast will it happen? How sharp will it happen? Hopefully, not too hard of a drop, not too fast of a decline. I'd like to see this on the chart doing well for many months to come. That's going to do it today, though, for video game news. Let me know what you thought. Resident Evil movie delay. Are you bummed out about it? I'm not really bummed too much. I think a couple of month delay is not going to be that bad. I could live. Godzilla vs. Kong. Have you seen it yet? What'd you think? How did you feel about me talking about something that I love so much in video game news talk that's not really video game news? Just couldn't help myself. What did you think of my little April Fool's joke? Sorry if it was mean. But for that matter, it is also letting you know that if you're new to the channel or have been to the channel for a while but just didn't know this, if you're interested, I do have a children's book that's published out there. It's on Amazon. If you're interested in it, and if you do buy a copy, I am very grateful for it. I definitely appreciate that. I don't like to ask, so I'm not saying, oh, please buy it. But if you do, if you're legitimately interested, very kindly, I say thank you. And you have my gratitude and my appreciation for buying it, because that's a passion project of mine. So I'm proud of it. It's nice that it was out there. I also wrote it and it was published before I had kids. So these days, since my son was born in 2014 and daughter in 2017, the book just got this extra breath of life because, having this book come out before I had kids, before I got married, it was one thing. But now, no matter what it does in history for the next years to come, it'll always be neat that I could read it to my kids, and I've read it to my kids' classes, and one day it'll be passed on to grandkids potentially and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And finally, what'd you think of today's Famitsu sales reports, both hardware and software? I think it was pretty cool. Nice to see Monster Hunter do well, Nintendo Switch do well, and PlayStation 5 do well. All right, that's going to do it today for Video Game News with Paul Gale Network. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.